In this video, I'm gonna take a look on the Unreal Engine water system. And the Unreal Engine water system, it's a very cool system because you have so many possibilities, so many properties that you can change that you can create really good results. So you can create oceans, you can create lakes, and you can create rivers, and you're gonna have an interaction between them and also interaction between them and the environment, your sculpting tools, and also the landmass, which is very cool. And before we start diving deep on that, though, I'm gonna go here in my landscape mode and manage, and I want to resample my environment. And resample basically is it's put more resolution to my environment. And to do that, you have this option over here, resize in the manage, and in the resize mode, you just need to go and put resample. And if you do that, you're gonna increase the amount of geometry that we have in our environment, and that's going to make your environment looks more sharp, more realistic. Just be careful with that, because depending of your computer configuration, you can struggle with performance, but because it's a no destructive workflow, you can try increase your resolution. If you start to having problems with that, you can just go here and decrease your resolution again. You can go back the resolution that we had before. So to do that is very simple. I can go here in the section size and increase the amount of quads. So instead of 31, I'm going to change to 127. So I'm going to increase 4 times the overall resolution, and then I'm going to hit apply. And when I do that, I can have problems like that, as you can see. But to solve this problem, usually I'm going to go here, I'm going to save everything, and then I'm going to close my project and then reopen. Okay, when I restart my engine, you can see that my landscape reappears again. Now you can see that our landscape is much sharper than before. So probably I'm gonna need to make a few tweaks on the landscape later. But yeah, that's completely fine. It's a part of the process. In this video though, I'm gonna focus on present you the water system and create our river and the lake of the environment. And to do that is very simple. So if I go here in the place actors and I type river, we're going to see that we have this water body river. So if you enable your plugin, the water system plugin, we're going to have this option here as well. So I'm going to just go and drag and drop to my environment, similar as we did with the landmass. And when I do that, we can see that we create a river. So right now, I know it's looking terrible, similar with the landmass in the beginning. So right now, it seems more like a pool or like a road. But yeah, again, we just need to tweak a few properties similar with the landmass and manipulate the spline, and you can create very good results. One of the beauties of that, the water system has very similar properties as the landmass, and because we saw landmass in the last video, work with the water system is gonna be much easier. So I can go here first and search for the points, and I can go and create points like that. So I can play with the tangent, and I'm gonna click in this point and make the river go all the way. And you can start manipulating the overall silhouette of the river doing that. First though, I'm gonna go and make this river slightly narrow, because right now it's too wide. So I'm gonna go and select one of these points, and then I'm gonna select all the spline points here. And here in the water, you're gonna have the river width, and I'm gonna change that to 800. That's gonna be 8 meters or 2,500 feet if you are one of the guys who use feet instead of meters. Okay, so now it's more easy to visualize the river crossing along this mountain. So we're gonna go and start creating a few other points. I just need to be careful to not use the Z position. Yeah, guys, so this is gonna change a lot yet. But just like trying to find the best silhouette of the river. I think like that makes sense, more or less. And then I'm gonna go here And this part over here is where I want to create a lake. So let's create a lake. So instead of type river, I can go and type lake, and you have the water body lake, and drag and drop, same process, and you create a lake. And the process is exactly the same, so I can move around this lake, and then I'm going to start manipulating these points over here, like that. Maybe I want a smaller lake. Okay, I'm going to create a few more points. And when I make the river and the lake intersect with each other, you can see that we create a transition between them. That's very cool. And of course, you need to tweak a lot of properties. But before we do that, I want you to do the same thing with your project. So create a river in your environment, manipulate the spline, create a silhouette that makes sense for your project, and then create a lake and do the same thing. And after you do that, we're going to go over the properties that the river and the lake has to make the river and the lake look better. Okay guys, so now let's go over the properties that the river has. So we're gonna go here in my outliner, and right now my outliner is getting messy, so I'm gonna go and create a couple folders. So this first one is gonna be the landscape, and I'm gonna select this one, all the landmass, like that, and then I'm gonna move to the landscape, and then I'm gonna create another folder, and this one is gonna be the water. Okay, so now it's more readable, and then I'm gonna go here and find my river here. And now let's go over the main properties of the river. And you're gonna see that they are very similar with the landmass, which is helpful for us. So first thing that I'm gonna change the location, so we can see here that our river is like 3 meters above the ground. I'm gonna set this value to 0. Like that. I want the river on the bottom of our environment. Okay, good. And let's scroll down over here. And here we have the curve settings. So the curve is similar with the curve that we saw in the landmass. But I think the most important property is this curve ramp width. And basically this one is the section of the river. So you are using this curve to create a section. And let me decrease this speed over here a little bit. Not that much, a little bit more. And you can see that more or less right now we have this curve in our river. And if I go and increase this curve, the river just collapsed because this value is too big. But if I go and set this value to 0, we can see that the curve, we don't have any curve anymore. We just carve the width of the river all the way in our environment. So we can start play with that. So maybe we can have a more harsh transition like that. I think like that's better. Here, scrolling down a little bit more, we have the blending mode. So the blending mode, I think the alpha works well, but we can work with the mean as well. So the mean gonna take into account just the minimal values, and because the river is on the bottom, so we're always gonna have river, so that can be helpful as well. And here we have some fall-off settings, and this fall-off settings is related to the transition between the river and the landscape. So if I go here, for instance, increase this value to a ridiculous high value, like that, you can see that we have a much smoother transition. It's more like we are starting having erosion in our environment. And the rivers have all this transition until you have some landscape. And if you go and set this value to 0, we can see that we have this harsh transition with the river. In here, we can see that this part is the edge offset. So if I set this edge offset to 0, we can see that we just carve the environment right where you have the river. But if I go here and increase this value to a big value, like 5,000, we have this plane in both sides of the river. And again, there is no right or wrong. That's depend of your project. So maybe I can go and increase this value a little bit, like double that. I think this transition is better. And this Z offset, it's the position of the water related to the terrain. So if I go here and set a value like 1 meter, like centimeters, you can see that now our water has 1 meter of distance between the borders. Yeah, so maybe 15 centimeters. Yeah, I think to decide these values, we're gonna have to have the material, the landscape material first to really evaluate what makes sense and what is not. But right now I'm just guessing and show you the values and the properties that we can manipulate your river. Okay, so now we have the effects, and again, the effects, we have the same options in the landmass. So we have the blurring, the curl noise, and the displacement. So the curl noise is gonna make a difference in the overall silhouette of your river. So we're gonna go and increase this a little bit, and you can see that we start creating some randomness on the borders, and the river start to look more natural. You just need to select the river again. So you can start playing with this curl to generate this randomness. Okay, and also we have the displacement. The displacement, it's not that important as it is in the landmass because the effect is too strong. But yeah, I'm gonna type noise. I think noise 0.05 is the noise that we use in the landmass. And I'm gonna show you. And then I can go increase. But I think the effect is too strong. Okay, so like that, maybe you can use. Okay, guys. So yeah, basically those are the properties to manipulate the overall silhouette of the river. So of course you have other properties that you're gonna change later. For instance, you're gonna change this material, you're gonna change the waves and all those things, but you're gonna do that later because right now I'm worried about the overall shape of our environment. And now I have another exercise to use. So I want to go over the same properties that we have here, but in our lake. So take a look in our lake and try to manipulate the properties to make the lake look in a way that makes more sense to you. Okay, guys, so let's take a look on the lake. So I select here the water body lake, and I'm gonna set the height of the lake to 0 as well. Okay, guys, so now let's go scroll down a little bit, and first we have the curves, and let's take a look on this curve over here. Let's increase this value. Unreal Engine always gonna work better with binary values. That's why I'm trying to always use binary values. Yeah, I think like that's better. So here we're gonna have the alpha blend as well. I think the alpha blend is gonna be better. Let me try a different fall off angle. Maybe when I do that, carve most of the mountain. So let me try like 90 degrees to take a look on that. Maybe 80. So here we have the edge offset and the Z offset. So maybe you can go here and change to width to take a look. Yeah, I think it's better. This fall off mode in the river, we are using the width instead of the angle. So yeah, I think it's better because you don't change too much the environment around it. So now I can go and try to find a value that makes sense. Yeah, maybe like that. And have a edge offset like that, and also a Z offset. So we're gonna make this transition more smoother like that. Okay, better. Here we have again the curl. So let's play a little bit with the curl. Generate more randomness. Okay, like that makes sense. Of course, I need to adjust the river a little bit more later. Okay, I think the lake like that looks more natural. And you can play with the noise, the height map. 0.1. And now we're gonna go back here to the river. First I'm gonna put it closer to the lake. And maybe we need to decrease the displacement, or maybe one of these, the curl. That. Or one thing that we can do as well, so I'm gonna go and click in one of the points, just one point, and then I'm gonna type width, and here I can increase the width of the river. So we're gonna increase the width of the river just close to the transition between the river and the lake, and I think like that makes more sense. Okay, good. Other thing that's bothering me a little bit, that's the waves of the lakes. They are too different from the river, and also the size of the waves doesn't make sense with the size of the lake. So I'm gonna change that as well. So we're gonna go here in the water body lake, and we need to find, like, it's wave attenuation. And if I decrease like to a value like 0, you can see that we create even bigger waves. To make the lake more still, we just need to increase this value. Now you can see that the lake is more still. Nice. And now we have the river again. And as I told you guys, you're gonna need to tweak that later for sure. But right now we have a better idea about how the environment is gonna look. And now we have the river, and also we have the lake. And what's the plan here, guys? So now that we have the overall shape of our environment, we need to understand better materials inside of Unreal. So we're going to need to take a break about environments. And in the next chapter, we're going to start talking about materials and how to create materials inside of Unreal. After we do that, we're going to start creating our landscape materials. So our landscape materials are going to have grass, rock, and all the materials that I want to use inside of our environment. And after we use this landscape material inside of our environment, we're going to have a better idea about the change that we need to make in our landscape, in the river, and so on. So probably after we create this landscape material, we're going to go back to the environment and tweak them to make it make more sense with what we are looking for. Because right now, without the material, it's kind of hard to tell what is wrong and what is right. So I'm gonna go and save everything. And in the next video, we're going to start understanding better the materials. And then once we understand better the materials, we can create the landscape materials. And of course, later on, we're going to use all the knowledge that we acquire about materials to change the material of our river and our lake as well. So that's the plan, guys. And let's go to the next chapter, see some things about materials. So see you there.